Yeah, you get to have me again bringing a segment, but y'all can handle it this week because you missed me for a few weeks, right? Yeah. All right. So we're going to talk about what is going on around the world with the racism thing. And I'm going to hit a couple articles here and the opinions I'm going to read the articles, but the opinions said here are not necessarily the opinions of Lamb Network. It is each individual's opinion. So please don't be offended by anything you might hear. You know what? Do the research. If something offends you, then it probably needed to do a little research on it. Anyway, fake police arrested after staging abuse incident in an attempt to frame real cops. Yeah, that's my news headline today, and it's taken from Natural News, but I've also seen it on Breitbart and some other things. It's the same news article. Well, not exactly the same, but the same news headline anyway. So what happened? In another incident in Black Lives Matter protesters posing as police officers has surfaced, this time in Paris, where 3 men were reportedly arrested for impersonating cops in an attempt to portray them as racist. Guys, this isn't the first incident like this either. This is going on. Don't believe what you see and don't believe what you hear. Anyway, early reports suggested that the 3 men dressed up in fake police uniforms and conspired with a director and a cameraman to film a contrived incident in which the 3 pretended to arrest a Black African man in front of a supermarket. The scene was set up to show a white thief stealing products and being let go, but the Black man was targeted simply due to his skin. Again, this was a setup. It wasn't a real scenario. So anyway, the uniforms they had on were actually real uniforms. They weren't fake, and they were connected to a Paris police officer who is believed to have lent the garments to them as part of the staged smear effort. Yeah, is it done on purpose? Absolutely. I think this whole thing has been contrived again, but okay. Not saying it's not real. I'm saying anyway. It's really important that you are extra vigilant about what you hear, about the news that you take in, and do not believe everything you hear right off the bat. Do some research on all the news, actually. So Walder, this guy, went on to falsely accuse American police of engaging in this type of discrimination and made a point to say how much better the French police are and that this doesn't really happen in France. This is an American thing. Anyway, really? Anyway. So the director of this fake incident told the left-wing newspaper it was meant as an actual tribute. That was his excuse when they got caught. Well, this was actually a tribute to George Floyd. Really? Their goal is to send a message of peace, is what they went on to say. Wow. How does that send a message of peace? Anyway, it's ridiculous, but these kind of contrived incidences are going on all over. In fact, the original was planned before too. Remember, there was a sign on the 7th, way before it ever happened, that Obama had put out, as well as other things way before this incident ever happened. It was a planned incident. Okay, so I want to go on to ask some questions related to another article, and this is big tech censorship of conservatives was orchestrated in advance of the attempted Marxist uprising in order to create the false appearance that everyone is with the rioters, because we know that this incident has spurred the world to rise up. It's been the excuse to blow up and promote even more racism. But racism comes from both sides, folks. I want you to know that. And it's okay from one side, but it's not okay from the other sides. So just think about this for a minute. Okay. In past years, every social media platform has been systematically canceling all of the loudest voices that contradict the leftist narrative. Yeah, there is a leftist narrative, guys. And anything that would speak the truth, they get rid of it. And we know that. Everything's being censored and removed. You're removed if you have a conservative viewpoint, because they only want the left's voice heard, the lies heard, because you hear a lie often enough. If you're not vigilant, you believe the lie. Anyway, this article goes on to say, and as we can all now see that George Floyd riots, this was purposely done well in advance to make it seem as though the entire world is on board with Black Lives Matter. As the world has been waiting in social isolation for the Wuhan virus, the coronavirus pandemic, to pass, the powers that be appeared to have been waiting for the precise moment to launch this global Black Power campaign. And now it's in motion. Most of the voices that previously would have warned all the people to not fall prey to this psyop no longer have a formidable presence online, so they're not heard. So the only voice the world hears, and most people don't research out what they're doing, is the left liberal side. That's all lies. You can have a hint of truth and then build a huge lie around it. Anyway, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, which many would consider to be the big three when it comes to social media powerhouses, have all become bully pulpits for the anti-white programming. What I know that could be offensive to somebody, but there it is there. I heard somebody say once that the most dangerous thing to be right now is a white male. Anyway, again, my opinion or the opinions of some. So everywhere you look, in other words, there's an endless message about ending systematic racism, abolishing the police, and basically overthrowing President Trump and replacing our constitutional republic with social justice communism. And that is what's being pushed here, folks. So and everybody's fallen right into the hands. And it was teed up when Silicon Valley really started to snipe rational conservative voices from practicing or participating in the conversation. So let's see. The Health Ranger report also asked this question: why doesn't anyone care when white people are brutalized by the police? And guess what? It happens. I know of many incidences where that happens as well. So there's an example here. And this is from one of the conservative voices, Candace Owens, who took to social media to decry all of the newfound worship of George Floyd, who actually is a felon, a criminal felon, and everybody's worshiping him. And he actually is he threatened to murder a pregnant woman and some other things. So not saying let's think a little bit, folks. Let's not worship man. First off, let's worship God, because this is man worship. Anyway, there's an incident of a guy named Tony Timpa. Yeah, Tony Timpa. And he was a white guy who was killed by police in almost the exact same way as George Floyd. Almost the exact same way. But unlike with Floyd's case, the officers who killed Timpa weren't charged with anything. They weren't held accountable for anything, because this particular instance of police brutality took place against a white man. The media ignored it, and there weren't any protests, and the world kept going. Why? Because there is racism from both sides. There's racism, guys, and we need to wake up. Anyway, because and they're promoting it, trying to stir it up. This is all to stir it up so they can create a system where they have martial law and they can clamp down, because everything they've tried hasn't been working. So they keep trying more stuff. But anyway, this selective outrage in reporting proves there is no actual conspiracy when it comes to police brutality, specifically against blacks. If anything, rogue police officers have harmed and killed more, and this is the article, guys, more white victims than black victims, and without consequence, because nobody seems to care or even know when a white person is brutalized by law enforcement. Big tech is part of the problem, as it is not only silenced many of the alternative voices that would dare to tell the other side of the story, but it has also steered social media users into believing and following a different narrative that centers around race. So, guys, let's wake up. Don't believe the lie. Don't take the blue pill. It's time to take the red pill. Okay. Anyway, you guys can jump in, but one more time, I want to preface this article that I just read. The second one was by Ethan Huff, and I believe I got it off of Breitbart. But there is truth in these articles, and it's almost, this is what's sad. It's almost, you have to almost apologize for saying white, a white person. How messed up is that?
You know, we're not, this world has lost a lot of the history and everything. One thing that was interesting to me, that I learned is, you remember that the House of Representatives, the Dems, all were wearing a certain motif scarf,
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
bending the knee. Well, come to find out that they were wearing, an African woman came forth and she sat there and says, you better be careful what you wear. You better know what you're wearing. They were wearing the colors of a certain tribe, and coming to know the history of that tribe would sell their own people to slavery. Isn't that interesting? So they're saying Black Lives Matter, and they're wearing this scarf that is the colors of a tribe that sold their own people to slavery. Guys, wake up. The other thing that's interesting to me, I took photography class in high school. And one thing my teacher told me, he says, it's really, you can take a camera and you can angle it a certain way to make someone see it in a certain perspective, a certain way. You can make people look like they're closer together than they are. You can make that with the camera look like there's more people than there are by the way you angle your camera. It is an optical illusion. So we need to be careful what we see with our little eyes. Remember the little song, Be Careful Little Eyes, What You See? And the other thing that I've seen is, there was a Black police officer that died. If you truly are a Black Lives Matter, it doesn't matter if you were a police officer or a nurse or a doctor. You're a Black man, and this Black man died. We should be caring about that. If we truly these people, and I know there are true Black Lives Matter people out there, okay? Mind you, they care about the Blacks, and that's wonderful. But number one, Yeshua came for the whole world. He didn't come for one race. He came for all of us. He died for all of us. And if this was true, then why, and you were right, you were protesting for Floyd and all the people that had been murdered by police officers, then why were you stealing and pillaging and rioting? And you were stealing from your own brothers and sisters as well.
And killing. They've killed too.
There was an old man in New York. I think he was in the Bronx area. I'm not sure if it was the Bronx or where it was, but it was a low income area. He had a little shop, Black man, elderly man. He was I think he's close to 70 years old. And he had a shop that they rioted and destroyed and stole everything. And he came out there and he says, "What are you doing? You're mad at the white man, but you're attacking me and all your other brothers and sisters. I don't understand why. What are you doing? You guys are not understanding these things." They don't understand their history. They're tearing down all these monuments, which, by the way, if you know your history, reminds me of the time of Stalin and the time that the Communist Party came in. Remember, they got rid of all the czars and everything and all the statues and everything of the memory of their history. And now I think it's Netflix or HBO has decided that, we can't have Gone with the Wind anymore because that's racist. And
HBO, and there was another network, two different places got rid of it.
And this woman, this Black woman that portrays a mammy, I think it's called, the mammy.
Yeah.
She got an Oscar for that award, the first Black woman an Oscar. And this is, yes, it is not true history, the way the movie's portrayed, but it is a movie that was done in those days. We need to remember these things. That's the problem. These children that are out there, and I'm calling them children because most of them that are 20 years and younger, they're out there that are going, especially out in LA and San Diego area, they're going crazy stealing. They think that it's a free for all because, hey, well, the cops are in trouble, getting in trouble, and they're focusing on the police officers so we can do whatever we want. And they're trying to get rid of the police officers. Well, there's a lot of police officers out there that are kind and nurturing and loving. And there's so many trigger words out there that they're using. And those trigger words are how people throughout history, and if you look it up, that it is used for brainwashing.
Well, it's just sad. And, I look at that and I see these people out there that are rioting, burning, stealing, big crimes, murdering even, and they're getting them out. I mean, there's things out there. Let's release everybody that's rioting because there's justified. And we have in our prison system people who should not be there. Come on, folks.
Exactly.
Come on, folks. These guys that are doing this, they're doing it because they want to do it. They are criminals. Stop holding everybody accountable for one person's actions. Stop holding everybody accountable for a few people's actions. Guys, that's not the way it works. Here's an example. I grew up, we were in Dimmitt, Texas. Well, I shouldn't say that. Well,
You know,
I
as white people, you know, and I'm not just pure white, FYI, I have Cherokee Indian in me. A lot of people have been bowing to a lot of black people. They're not your God. There's only one that you are to bow down to. And when I heard at the 5-hour funeral, I watched a little snippets of it, of George Floyd, I cried because a reverend, he's supposed to be a reverend, stated that George Floyd is the cornerstone that's been rejected.
The
I'm
guy
sorry, no, he's not.
The guy who tried to murder a pregnant woman that has a criminal record that, and by the way, the coffin was smaller than George Floyd, and they were flipping it around, and they said there's no way there was a body in there.
There's a lot to that too, but to have a man that states that he knows the scriptures, and to state that this man, which is a man, he's not Yahovah, he's not Yahovah's son, to state that is wrong, and that is not my savior that's in that coffin.
It is. That's true. Anyway, you're right. And what I was going to say is that they're so brainwashed that some people that I know that were never like this when I knew them as a young person said they could care less. They don't want to be around any white person, and they don't care if they destroy every business. They would hope and pray that every business was destroyed, every white person owned thing, or even black. It doesn't matter. They want all white people dead and all white people. And I'm like, guys, they want the destruction of businesses and everything else. They said, we don't care.
If you are a believer in the scriptures and you are a believer in Jesus or Yeshua, then you should not be out there stealing, because he said to follow his commandments, and him and Yahovah are one. Him and God are one. Jesus and God are one. And the 10 Commandments says, thou shalt not steal, thou shalt not murder. You are murdering, you are stealing, and you're claiming to be a believer. You are not by your fruits. That is not being a believer. That is not being a believer. And then proclaiming a man that had been, yes, by the video of what I've seen, he had been unjustly murdered, okay, by the video that I've seen. And anyone that had that happen to them had been unjustly murdered, but they're not the Savior. They're not God. They're not Yeshua or Jesus. They're just a person.
But what about the other people that are in the same way unjustly murdered? Mark, do you want to jump in there?
People are stupid.
Exactly.
It really is. If people are stupid, the biggest reason that people are stupid is because they live for the moment. They live for right now. And the statement, I don't remember exactly what it is, but basically is that if you don't remember your history, then you're subject to repeating history. And this is, we all know, every one of us know, and even the stupid people that are out there know, this is not the first time this has happened. It's happened multiple times where a white officer has killed a black person or maimed one or done this kind of stuff. It's not the first time. It's just a new time. It's just another time where they've got the access to do the things they want to do. And the worse that society gets, along with, with COVID-19 and all the other things that build up and build up and build up, all you got to do is bring this out again and do something similar again. And people act as though this is the first time this has happened. They act as though, I don't know. This is the first time. There's nobody doing it to the white people. We didn't see that, and it's, once again, we can go on and on and on and on. People are stupid. It's all there is to it. And I'm saying you're stupid because you don't stand up and voice the fact and publicly put out the fact that this has happened before. Every one of these things. COVID-19 happened before. The coronavirus, this one is one of the lesser ones that has happened before. I understand what the government is doing and the world is doing, trying to head it off so that it isn't as bad as what's happened before, but it's happened before. Why are you so freaked out about it? And the people that are older than 16 years old and you don't know about it, you're stupid. Come on. It's happened before. If you don't know your history, you're stupid. Quote me. I don't care what the deal is. It all boils down to people are stupid. And, it's realistically, shameless plug, really, if you're not watching our Constitution show, you really are missing a lot. We don't just talk about the Constitution. We talk about the righteousness of Torah, the righteousness of the Constitution, and we the people, and the things that are going on today. And we've discussed this in depth and how it all works. And you see my my name tag, the needs of the many. A lot of people are very familiar with the expression, the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few or the one. And it's interesting, even though most people are familiar with this because of the Star Trek movie where Spock quoted this, but the truth is, it is a phrase that is known around the world and used around the world on a regular basis. They just don't verbalize the phrase. But the actual idea behind the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few actually used to be a huge way the world was run. Many very civilized countries, including the United States, based every decision they made on how this particular thing works, the needs of the many. It has now switched over to the needs of the one outweigh the needs of the many or the few. And it is wrong. It's not a Torah principle. It's not right. It's not the right way to do it. Next week on Contemplating the Constitution, which is on Wednesday mornings at this same time, we will be discussing this, briefly, not in detail. But I'm just telling you, last word, people are stupid. And the reason people are stupid is because they don't exercise knowing their history. They don't exercise that. They decide to be in the moment. We live in the moment. We don't care about what's happened before, and we don't care about what's going to happen in the future. We only are going to live in the moment. And I'm going to tell you what, you're stupid. That's all there is to it.
Yeah, you need to think before you do. And that's a problem as well. A lot of people aren't thinking before they're doing things. And
Yep.
I agree with Mark. That's perfect. That's a good trigger word, Mark.
But we will let that. Thank you guys. And I agree. And we can talk about this for the rest of the program.
We are richly blessed to bring you what we believe is the fullest, most diverse, yet up-to-date progressive teachings, discussion, and prayer programming you can find anywhere on this planet. Be sure to take the tour of the MessianicLambRadio.com website. I'm Susan Hoogie, thanking you for joining us on the Messianic Lamb Video Network.